Hey there, good people. Good morning, and welcome to another campaign update with your favorite mayoral candidate. Do you remember the name yet? Do you remember the name yet? The 110th mayor of NYC? What's his name? That's right, Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin Miles. Rise of the Good People. Aaron Benjamin Miles. Before becoming mayor of NYC, the 110th mayor of New York City, Aaron Benjamin Miles. There it goes right there. Aaron Benjamin Miles. We're going to kick it off with a moment of silence to give praise to the Most High. And we'll take another moment of silence to pay homage and give recognition to all of our ancestors, without whose guidance, wisdom, and protection we would not be here. So a moment of silence for our ancestors. Okay, so I'm going to keep you waiting too long because I know how impatient people would be being, and they'd be like, let me just see what else is on this internet. And you'll be out before I know it, right? So today, with your favorite mayoral candidate, Aaron Benjamin Miles, Rise of the Good People, that's you. Before becoming mayor of NYC, my docuseries, which will be coming soon to Amazon Prime Video on Demand, where you can follow the whole series of all of the footage that I've been gathering over the 2 years of my journey towards becoming the 110th mayor of New York City. Today, my topic is going to be consideration for men of color, Black men, Indian men, Arab men, Hispanic men, just men of color, but in particular, Black men. Where is the consideration for men of color? I've been watching all of these initiatives being passed, most of them for women, right? And then you got a lot of them for children. And I'm not knocking none of these. We need them. You need all the initiatives we could get for the women, for the children. I've seen some initiatives for the gay community or LGBTQ community. I've seen initiatives for Asian people. But I cannot remember when is the last time I've seen an initiative aimed at men of color or Black men in particular. I know they passed these initiatives for minorities, and I guess we're supposed to be engulfed in that to share whatever benefits come with that with everyone else. But what initiatives have been initiated to address the very compromised plight of Black men and men of color? I mean, Black men are the most incarcerated. I know that. I know Black men are probably have the highest unemployment rates. Black men. Now I'm speaking specifically about Black men. I know Black men are probably the most discriminated against, but there have been no initiatives aimed at addressing this compromised conditions of Black men. So I guess I'm gonna be the person to speak on it. I started this with, I was going to just talk about relationships for Black men and men of color. But I'm going to go into other things as they come into my mind, as I find myself inspired by the ancestors to speak on whatever topic. And we're going to address this lack of consideration for Black men and men of color, because that's what it is. And as the 110th mayor of New York City, of course, you know, I'm going to address that. That's going to change. I'll be focusing a lot of initiatives to balance the playing field for Black men and men of color. Now, relationships, fellas. I know it's like a primitive instinct to want to get with the ladies or whoever you want to get with, right? Because, you know, sexual preference, we got to consider that too. See, I'm on top of everything. I'm not going to discriminate and leave the LGBT community wants and needs unaddressed. I see all of that. But I do have to make or take a stance on my views for that, as everyone does. So, although I believe LGBTQ community have all the rights, they have a right to all of the how would I put that? They're entitled to their rights just as everyone else. But I have a particular way that I've been inspired by the Most High, where my stand comes at I can't really embrace anything which is going to jeopardize the perpetuation of human life. And so two same-sex, a relationship of two people of the same sex does just that in my eyes, because you can't reproduce, you can't give birth and perpetuate life. And so if that really caught on, it's really like a death sentence for us as a human race. So I just believe that that's a very novel group of people. I don't think it's intended for God. I don't think it's God's intention for that to really become the mainstream, unless God's intention is to end life as we know it, right? Because if everyone got in a relationship with the same sex partner, the reproduction would stop, and then, you know, we would be on a decline and life would eventually end as we know it. So that's my stand on that. But for that novel group of LGBT people, I fully support their entitlement to all the rights that everyone else has. And as the 110th mayor of NYC, nobody's going to violate those. Not while I'm in office. They're going to have the same respect. They're going to have the same entitlement, but they'll also have to follow the same rules that everyone follows. See, that's one part a lot of people just overseeing too. Like, there's rules and everybody has to follow the rules, and everybody has to respect everyone else's wants and needs and views. Can't push anybody's views on anybody else. But anyway, whoever you want to pursue, my brothers out there, it's time to stand up. You don't have all this time to be wasting anymore. Jumping through hurdles, trying to figure out what women want, because that's what you're doing. Women always going to be, see, a lot of guys are out here and they're on these dating services and they're going to these bars and these clubs and they're trying to find the woman that would accept them. And I kind of got onto this because I've seen this little post where it just was like men are accusing these dating apps of being, you know, unfunctional. Like the dating apps and websites are not working. They work fine. The problem is, which you're not considering, there's a very short supply of qualified women that you would want to be in a relationship with. You have to find a woman who has something to offer you in particular. See, that's the easy way to narrow out a lot of these women right there. What is she offering you that's specifically only for you? All of these women are doing things that are for the masses of men, twerking, dressing provocatively, you know? These things aren't intended for you in particular. They're for the masses of the men. And they always got their eye open looking for who's watching, right? An easy way to look at women for you guys who are trying to build yourself up and you're trying to elevate and you're trying to better yourself, look at women as a group of people looking for opportunities to get into your life to ruin it. And then once they're done with you, they immediately start looking for the next person who's going to give them the opportunity to come into their life to ruin it. That's the safest way to look at women. And then you'll be able to navigate a little more effectively and avoid all of these booby traps. Because that's what they're doing. Women are looking for opportunity to come into your life just to ruin it. And as soon as they're done with you, they're looking for the next opportunity or the next man who wants to give them the opportunity to come into their life just to ruin it. Men and women are different. God made women to enjoy their lives in the early stages of life. They're like fruit. You want to get them while they're ripe, before they get too old, like a banana, and then it starts to turn black and get mushy and soft, and then you don't want it no more. Right? Men are not like that. God intended men to enjoy life in the later years, in the latter years, but only if you spend the early years preparing to enjoy those latter years. Because women are always going to have standards, as should men, but women have standards. They want to eat well, right? They want to be sheltered in a nice place. They want to dress nice. They want comfort. They want the riches of life, right? So any man who can't provide these riches of eating well, comfortable shelter, the finest threads and linens, then it's an uphill battle trying to attract the women. That's why God intended for men to spend the early part of their lives working, saving, preparing yourself to build your kingdom. Because once you have a kingdom, it's easy to attract the queens. And you could tell all the older men who didn't do that. Because older men that didn't spend their early years preparing for those later years, they end up being old men with nothing to offer women who are still chasing women unsuccessfully. Let me say that again. You can always tell the older men who didn't do the right thing with their younger years by preparing and saving for their kingdom, because they end up turning into old men with nothing to offer a woman, still pursuing and chasing women unsuccessfully. Right? And that's why a lot of older men attract the younger women. If you're wondering why, because the older men who spent their early years properly preparing for the pleasure and the comfort of their older years, they easily attract the younger women, because the younger women are looking for the things the older men have, who spent the time properly as a youth preparing. He has a kingdom, and younger women want to come into lavish life of kingdom, good living, a good eating, right? And that's how you got to look at it. Stop wasting your time in your younger years right now, fellas, chasing these women, because right now you don't have anything to offer them. I mean, you do. Now, let me correct that. At the younger years, because as a youth, and in life in general, the real assets in life are money, power, and youth. Money, power, and youth. People are attracted to youth. So young men that's out there, they're attracting women even though they don't have anything. And that's confusing. And that's really distracting. Because when you're young and you got that youth, and that youth that you have is attracting women, it's going to take you off your game. It's going to take you off your focus of what you need to be doing. That youth and that time as a youth need to be spent preparing for your later years, working, saving, planning for the life you want to really live, for the life you want to really enjoy. But if you let that youth that's attracting those women distract you from your true goals and objectives, you're going to end up being one of those, because women are not going to stay but so long while you can't feed them. Women are going to only stay but so long while you don't have a nice place to stay to shelter them. You know? Women are only going to stay for so long when they're the ones that's spending all their money on making you dress nice and look nice. You feel me? So you can't let that distract you, that youth. That's a powerful thing. It's like money and power. So you can't let your youth attract these women and throw you off your game. Your focus right now have to be working, saving, and planning for the life you really want to live as a king. And a king always needs a kingdom. So the women are not going to go anywhere. There's always a new fleet of young, beautiful women coming of age. So you don't have to focus on that. The woman that's for you for real, she might not even be born yet. Think about that. You know, I know there's a lot of women running around that you could see, and you're like, wow, that one, I can get that one. But the one that's really meant for you, she might not even be born yet, depending on what age you are. Right? So don't let these women distract you, because there's always another fleet, another class, another school of beautiful women coming of age every year. So you don't have to focus on these women. You need to focus on your game plan, which is working, keeping yourself healthy and fit, saving, and planning for what type of life you want to live when you build your kingdom. What type of queen do you really want? What do you really need as a man, so you could find, or you could properly assess these women for, do they have what you need? Because all of these women that's out here, all of them think that they're perfect marriage material. No matter how vulgar they are, no matter how much profanity they spit out their mouth, no matter how much twerking they spend all their time doing, no matter how many kids they have, but who knows how many different men, they still think they the perfect marriage material and deserve the best man on the planet. See, that's why you got to know what you need And you got to know what type of woman that's not for you. Because every woman thinks she's the right woman. And instead of focusing on herself, they're only focusing on what the man needs to be bringing to the table. It started when, I believe, when a woman knew she could say what makes a man a man. Back in the days, they started with this: you ain't a man if you don't, open the door for a female. You ain't a man if you don't pull a chair from under the table for her to sit down. You ain't a man, a real man. You ain't a real man if you don't do this, and you ain't a real man if you don't do that. And once they realize men jump through the hoops when they say this, I think that just evolved, and it got to the point where women, that all they focus on is what a man need to have to make her happy. While she don't focus on nothing that she needs to have. She only focus on what the man needs to have. You don't need no more of that. And I'm going to get back to this consideration for black men and men of color. That's why there's so little initiatives to address the situation of black men, because as long as you can't provide for a woman, as long as you can't feed her, as long as you don't have nice shelter to host a woman, as long as you don't have resources, you're ineligible. And that's why there's no initiatives that are being rolled out to assist black men and men of color, because they know this. The advocates of the white agenda know that if you have nothing to offer a woman and you cannot provide for a woman, no woman is going to want you. And that's how they want it, because they look at black men in particular and men of color in general as a competitor for women. You're a threat to the advocate of the white agenda. So they want to, first of all, have the impression that they're the ones that can help the women. So that's why they're always coming out with initiatives for women. They're always coming out with something to help women of color, the divide and conquer. If they always providing for our women, what do our women need from us? So that's the reason why there's so little initiatives rolled out to address the compromised conditions of black men in particular and men of color in general. And that's the reason why there's so much effort made to keep unemployment so high amongst black men in particular and men of color in general. Because as long as you're in this compromised state of not being able to provide, you're going to stay ineligible. And so all of the women of our communities, black women, Asian women, Indian women, these white men are enjoying themselves with all of our women. Because, women are attracted to who can provide for them, who can feed them, who can protect them. And white men are painting the image that they're the only ones that can do those things. They're the only ones who can feed them. They're the only ones who can provide nice shelter for them. They're the only ones who can protect them. So, of course, all of the women are going to gravitate towards these white men. And for now, you need to leave that alone and let them take themselves right on, like twerk themselves right on over to them white men. Let all these women twerk themselves right on over to them white men. And you need to just ignore all of that. Just think that the woman that God created for you or intends for you, she hasn't even been born yet. So you don't even have to focus on none of these women twerking their stuff all over, showing their stuff all over, broadcasting their stuff all over. These women out here today, this internet done showed us that they're very much exhibitionists. They're addicted to attention. You don't need no woman that's addicted to attention in general, and that's an exhibitionist. I mean, she's not catering to you in particular. She's catering to the masses, whoever's going to pay attention to her. You don't need that. So what you need to do is get focused on your plans for your latter years. How do you want to live life in your latter years? You work for your first half of life and you live good for your second half of life. So work good, work hard now as a youth and start to earn, save, and plan for what type of kingdom you want to build and what kind of king you want to be and how do you want to be catered to as a king so that you can know how to really assess these women. And you need to get ready to vote for your boy, Aaron Benjamin Miles, so I could get on these initiatives to start assisting you in this planning. Of course, ladies, you know, everybody else who's getting initiatives, I still see you. And I believe you still should be given the assistance and the initiatives. I don't have no plans on changing any of that. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there's going to be a big push and a big focus on starting to roll out initiatives to help Black men in particular and men of color in general. You feel me? Because I see what's going on. I told you this advocate of the white agenda, they're very clever. They have very sophisticated techniques to eliminate the competition, to maintain power, control, and domination. They have very sophisticated techniques. And a lot of the time, the techniques are so subtle, you don't even know they're executing these techniques on you. You need to have the third eye to be able to detect these things. But that's another sophisticated technique of the advocates of the white agenda. It incorporates divide and conquer because it separates men of color from women of color in our community by excluding Black men and men of color of any initiatives and any assistance, any resources, any opportunities. It makes them very ineligible and very unappealing to their female counterparts. So we have to be mindful of these things, and it's time for the lack of consideration of Black men and men of color to end. It's time for the lack of consideration of Black men and men of color to end. And as your 110th mayor of New York City, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to end that. And there will be a lot or many initiatives to assist and balance the playing field for Black men and men of color rolled out with my administration when I get in that Gracie Mansion. It's your boy, Aaron Benjamin Miles. Aaron Benjamin, Benjamin Miles. Aaron, Aaron Benjamin Miles, 110th mayor of NYC, rise of the good people. That's it for me. I told you I'm trying to make my videos a little shorter. So I'm about to sign off right here. Hope you enjoy your Monday. I'm about to get out and do my campaign, and I need those votes. I need those signatures, and I need them contributions. Cause we coming. When we come, we coming. I got economic relief out here right now. Anybody that needs a job need to get at me. You can email riseofthegoodpeople@gmail.com. You can make $1,000 a day. $1,000 in one day. Email me for details. riseofthegoodpeople@gmail.com. And I'll send you all the details to how you can get this economic relief of $1,000 a day. I'll get back with you, man. New York City Savages. We political now. One.